And how old was you when you ventured into the prison service?
Marvin Herbert, one of the most verbally and physically violent men I'd known in my 23 years.
The mindset I had back then was always focused on making money.
What would you say to the 18-year-old Marvin Herbert if he was sitting next to you right now?
Welcome to another episode of Marvin Herbert's Nothing But The Truth. Today we have, thus far, the most exceptional guest I've had on so far. And the reason why I say that is because we've had a history stemming back 30 years. And we lived on different ends of the spectrum, different sides of the fence. And I've been welcomed into his home. So today we have Sean Talbot.
Marvin, good to see you.
Thanks for being here. Now, Sean is an ex-prison officer who was SO of security.
Well, more of a wing SO.
Wing SO, okay. In an establishment I spent many years in on 2 sentences. So I had a 5-year sentence and a 5.5-year sentence. And people that know me know that I was a real life criminal in every sense of the word, in prison and out of prison. The purpose of today is to make people understand that there is a different side to all of us. And what I've learned over the last few years is the skills that I possessed as a criminal, I've translated, transformed and transitioned into the legitimate world. And now the transition I've made, I'm the same person, I have the same feelings, I have the same face, but I deal with different products. So the products I deal with now are legitimate products. Prior to my transition, it was all illegal products. And I thought to get the message across to millions, thousands, if not millions of youngsters is that you all have skills. You have transferable skills which will catapult you into a place, a position and a standing in life which will make you a lot more comfortable. Very much like myself today. So starting where it'll work, it doesn't make sense in going straight into the nitty gritty. We'll build up to it. So just so I can understand a little bit more about you. Now we're on a personal level. We've been to a couple of boxing events, a couple of charity events. We've worked together on future projects, or we're working together on future projects. We're engaged through Serco. I'd just like the public and my viewers to know what type of a guy you were, what type of a man you were, and where it all started, where it all begun, and what made you become a prison officer.
My mother died when I was quite young. I left school with nothing. I'm dyslexic. I had no qualifications. As big as I am now, I was actually quite fit back then. I'm sure you remember. I was
I do remember.
Tad thinner then, Mark. Yeah. And after a period of time, I worked as a printer for a while, which I really enjoyed. I loved the job. I love being a printer. I love making something. But a few of my friends said I had quite an infectious personality and I should apply for prison officer. At this time, my partner Lucy was pregnant with my first son, and I was really thinking about a career and what can I become? What can I do? I knew lots of people who were not the most savoury of people, and I guess I was involved with them as well. So I was making choices about what I wanted to do and how I could support my wife and family. Never thought I'd actually get into it. Next thing you know, I was training to become a prison officer, and I started. But during the training, there were a couple of revelations for me as a person about what did I want to be, how did I want to be thought of in a prison. And I'd seen many kind of potential role models. And one of the things that was very clear and was made very clear to me is look at these role models or potential role models, but don't try and be them. Try and be what you need to be. And I made that kind of transition and made that decision that I was going to be I just wanted to be an honest prison officer who tried to help people. That's genuinely what I wanted to do.
Well, you did. You was that. I can honestly say that you wasn't in any way, shape, or form crooked when I had my engagements with you. What I do remember of you as a prison officer is that you was one of the fairest officers in the prison. Obviously, we had our conflicts throughout the 10
We had a
years.
few, Marv, didn't we? Yeah.
But you was a fair officer. You was a man you could talk to, communicate with, and sort of rationalise sort of any situations and even confrontations. You know, like you always seemed to calm situations down. You wasn't the bull in the china shop prison officer. And
No, I never wanted to be that. And I did have conversations with people, prison officers and prisoners, who used to say, "Oh, you know, you're a fit guy, Mr. Talbot. Why don't you, don't you want to get in there all the time?" And I used to say to them, I've been playing rugby most of my life, and I've never had a rugby match. That hasn't thrilled me. So in terms of the need for physical contact, I get that in my rugby. I really don't need to be running into cells and giving people a hard time. It wasn't for me. Plus, you really need to, if you go into the prison service in any situation, and there's a lot of good prison officers out there, Marv, a lot of good guys and girls who do an incredible job. I think particularly now in the more modern prison service, it's more difficult, who go in there, and the one thing I've always said to them is, if you go in there, think about how you'd want your wife, husband, mother, father, child treated whilst they were in prison if they made a mistake. Yeah. How would you want them treated? And I think as long as people go in with those ideals, then they can make good prison officers. But that's just one of the things I honestly believe is you have to go in there with that.
And how old was you when you ventured into the prison service?
Mid-20s. Yeah.
So you'd been in the job a while before I met you then.
Yes. Yeah, I think I had. I'd been in a little while before we kind of first came across each other.
1994, I believe it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, 94 in Swaleside, I think, was the first time we came across each other. I was on B wing at the start of that.
I was on D wing.
And you were on D wing.
With young Shakesy.
With young Shakesy. Young Shakesy. Bless him.
So I told him I was going to be doing a prison officer, and he said, "Oh,
I wish you'd use a different term to doing a prison officer, Marv."
Say that again?
I said, I just wish you'd use a different term to doing a prison officer.
No, I said, I'll be podcasting a prison officer.
Yeah.
And he was like, who? I said, look, I can't tell you until I've done it, but it was from Swaleside, and he'd been racking his brains for months, and then he went to me the other day, he went, "I've got it." I was like, "Who?" He went, "It was that Samoan one, wasn't it? It was that Samoan one." I said, "What makes you say that?" He said, "Because he was alright. He was." I was like, "Well, I'll let you know once I've done it." So now he's going to know, you know what I'm saying? Because
I saw him a little while ago, actually. Well, as you know, I do a lot of work around employability now, but so I get around, and particularly in East and North London, so I get around quite a bit, so places like the Peacock Gym.
Yeah.
And Shakesy was there in the cafe, and he saw me walk in. You could just see his eyes open up, and it was quite funny for me.
I would like to have been there. He was a good man, Shakesy. Good man, really good man. And so in Swaleside, you was well established as a prison officer by the time I got to Swaleside.
I wouldn't say well established. I was still fairly new. It wasn't. I hadn't been in massively long, but I think long enough to get to that point where I knew I'd found me as a prison officer. Because I think you do. I think you have to find you as a prison officer. If every prison officer was the same, it'd be robots, wouldn't it? So, I think I found my way, really.
Yeah, there was a few prison officers in Swaleside that I got on really well with. we had our own share of conflict. Miss Taylor was my arch rival, but she was a woman that I respected, you know, because she had
Very much.
She had balls bigger than 90% of the men in the jail.
Very
mate,
much.
you know,
But she was also wise and honest.
yeah, she was pretty fair. She never stitched us up. She never stitched you up.
No, she was very, very. I felt she was always very, very fair, and that's on both sides of the
Yeah.
fence. If you'd been a prison officer who had done something that she felt was wrong,
Yeah.
and I'd been one of those prison officers on one occasion. I can remember. That's another story. She'd pull you up on it
Yeah.
as quickly as she'd pull up any prisoner.
Yeah,
so she was very fair on
Yeah,
that.
she was by the book. She was by the book. I had me running with her for a few years because we were the first set of people to be put on basic.
Yes, A1 Basic,
I remember
which
that.
was first run. It was the first basic
Therapeutic, it was called at first.
wing. It was for the naughtier side of life, and I think in those days at Swaleside, I don't suppose it's any secret that Swaleside would get some of the more challenging people.
Yeah, the most challenging people, I'd say.
Let's just put it that way. Some of the most challenging people.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult. So I had to come up with ways to deal with that.
Yeah.
And A1 Basic was one of those. In the initial days, as I remember, you seemed to enjoy it there. You seemed to spend a lot of time there.
Do you know what it was? Do you know what used to make me laugh about it? You couldn't get adjudicated on there at first. You couldn't get nicked for nothing. Because it was therapeutic, so you had to behave to get a standard rating to go back on the wing.
Yes.
And it didn't make sense to keep nicking you when you're down there, because then it just defeated the object of the therapeutic aspect of the basic.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it really did work on that kind of whole principle about if you behave yourself, you get more. Which I guess essentially is how we treat our children sometimes. You know, if your kids are naughty, you might not let them play this or that or the other.
Yeah.
And I guess it goes back to that kind of principle.
Well, it actually worked, because the prison system on the whole right now is based on the basic, standard and enhanced, and then
Yes.
super enhanced. And obviously later on in life I realised, at that stage of my life I really didn't care, so I was just out there I couldn't get nicked, so it didn't matter to me. Do you know what I mean? I can't lose any more days, it didn't matter, so I could just play up, I could be as abusive as I wanted to be, I could do, as long as you weren't physical, you couldn't get adjudicated, because if you could become physical, that's when you had the outside adjudicator coming, and that's when
Yes.
that's when they started the extra sentencing. So that was the threat we had, that if everything got too out of control, then an outside adjudicator would come in, and you get more than, I think it was 90 days, because prior to that it was
28 days was the maximum we could give, and I think it was up to 90 days with a judge,
yeah,
essentially. Yeah.
and that was it. So once that come into effect, it sort of made you sit back and think, oh, do you know what, I've done an extra 3 months, like 28 days, 8 days, 14 days.
Stick's
7
important,
days.
Marv, but I think also the other important aspect of the whole regime was not just the stick but the carrot, you know, and it's a reflection of life, isn't it? If you misbehave, you can go away to prison, and it's not nice. Even if you're on enhanced, let's be honest, who wants to be on enhanced in a prison or out with your family? You know, there are things about freedom that people take for granted until they lose it for a period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that can be quite difficult for a lot of people once they realise actually this is, you know, okay, I've got a TV in my cell, I can watch TV, but TV was never the thing that was really important. I'm well aware you've got a young family.
Yeah.
Seeing your family, and I've been blessed to meet one of your daughters.
Sloan.
Yes.
Sloan, yeah.
Who is absolutely gorgeous.
Future Olympian.
Yes, I think she probably is. Unlike us, she's got a face like an angel. But she's spending time with her. Surely, I could tell you can have all the tellies in the world. You can have Sky. You can have this. You can have nothing beats that. Nothing beats being with your kids.
And that's the one thing I've started to realise, that when I was younger, I never considered that. On my first sentence, I never considered that whatsoever, because we'll move on to that in a little while. Because my main goal was to provide for my family. So there's things you're going to hear today which make you understand why I behaved the way I did when I was in prison, because as a man, I believe you need to provide for your family. I know now you need to provide presence, security, and sort of direction. Prior to my transition, I just believed you had to provide money. So in my early years, when we first become acquainted, my only goal was to make money, whether I was in prison or out of prison, because the family had to eat, the family had to survive, the family needed Christmas presents, birthday presents. So the mindset I had back then was always focused on making money. So the point of the podcast today is to let the youngsters understand about the transferable skills that they possess.
Absolutely, and so many.
And that's what I'm saying. If I'd have known then what I know now, then maybe I would never ever gone back to prison, And this is a very fundamental aspect that I want the kids and even the young men to actually become aware of now, before it's too late, before they waste 20, 30, 40 years of their life. Because like I say repeatedly, I don't know any successful, active criminals that live a harmonious, free life.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing better than waking up in the morning and not worrying about the front door getting booted off, you getting nicked, you going to prison. Do you understand? So the best feeling in the world is waking up in the morning and being there for your family, knowing.
I've been really lucky to be with the same woman since I was 17 years of age, so 37 years.
Congratulations, mate, because not a lot of people.
And I get how lucky I am.
Well, do you know what? You can't see. I'd like to even that statement there. It's not luck, Sean, because the reason why you got through the prison system and the way you dealt with everybody was because of the character you was, right? So for everybody out there watching, right, like prison officers are doing a job, and you have got some horrible prison officers, but I can honestly say, hands down, this is one of the best prison officers that I come across in my whole incarceration. And that's not saying blind smoke.
That's really kind.
But it's not kind. It's the truth, right? Now,
well, behind every good man is a better woman. I guess they say.
Yeah.
But one of the things I enjoy is silly things like walking our dog along the beach with my missus, who I believe to be very beautiful, and being able to hold her hand and walk my dog. Now that costs nothing.
And do you know how many prisoners would dream about that every single day they're sitting in their cell? Do you understand? So you say you were lucky when you actually created your own luck. You created your own life. You was a man of substance, you was a man of purpose, and you had values. And them values, that purpose and that strategy you had has kept you with the same woman for 40 odd years.
Well, 37 years,
like
yeah.
37 years. So that's, I'm no good with the maths. So I know you're in your 50s, 17.
I have to remember.
Yeah. God forbid you mess up on the anniversaries, mate. Yeah. But yeah, in other words, that's just a testament to the man that you were. Now, I never ever believed back then that I'd be sitting in a home with a prison officer having a conversation about transition, about life, about relationships. I never believed in a million years I would even work with a prison officer. Do you understand? So,
well, there was that day I hadn't seen you since Swaleside days, and I'm at a boxing event. Love my boxing, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm at this lovely boxing event, and I'm looking around, and I know that face. It's Marvin Herbert. I know exactly who that is. Marvin Herbert, one of the most verbally and physically violent men I'd known in my 23 years. This could go one of two ways. It could go well, or it could go very badly. I'm an ex-prison officer. if he's the same Marvin Herbert, it could go badly for me. I've got some friends with me and I don't really want to involve them in this either. These are all the things going through my head. So I need to bowl up to him and say hello and see if he recognises me. And then hope that when he recognises me, he does that rather than that, because he was very good with that. And I've never ever pretended to be a hard man, and I'm not. I'm not even a brave man,
you know. I'm a man nonetheless, Sean.
But a man nonetheless. So, but I thought I've got to go and do it. So I did, and luckily, from my perspective, and wonderfully from my perspective, I got the smiling Marvin, and we talked. And I got to meet your daughter.
Yeah.
And I got to hear about what you were doing, which has been amazing, because it turned out that essentially, although I'd left the prison service, my ethos hadn't changed.
Yeah.
I was still trying to do the same things. I was still trying to get ex-offenders into work, give them different lives, along with others as well. I was doing employability across the whole piece, but very much my focus, my personal focus, has always been that, because I've seen the change it makes in people's lives, and that gives me no greater joy. You know, I'm not working when I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I'm bringing myself joy.
Yeah.
By giving joy to others, and I love doing it. And to find you were doing the same thing was wonderful, which led to us getting involved in quite a few different things, and starting to make a lot of contact. Me inviting you along to Serco, to our head office. Do you remember?
Yes, I do. And Serco, for those who don't know, they're an organisation that actually build, run, and create prison strategies for rehabilitation and resettlement. Serco run, I don't know how many prisons they've got in the country, but
we've got a few, but we do more than that. We do a lot more than that. We do a lot of public service stuff at Serco, and I am a proud Serco person for sure. I'm a very proud Serco member, because they allow me to do my job. They understand my passion, and they understand that my passion's a good thing, and makes for good business sense. So they've been very good to me in that way, and I'm very grateful to Serco for that. It sounds like we've just done an advert, but I genuinely mean what I've just said.
Yeah, come on.
So it's been really good. And going back to what you were saying about those transferable skills, I mean, you look at the Marvin Herbert I knew. He always had those You always had them. You always were a businessman. Just your business was the wrong kind of business, Marv. For my money. You were in a business that didn't spread joy. It spread pain in some ways.
Suffering.
And suffering.
Deprivation.
Yeah.
Pain.
And it made quick money, but that's all it was. Quick to come, quick to go. You know, it's not something that lasts. But when you consider you set up distribution networks really well, didn't you?
Yeah.
And sometimes in difficult environments, such as prison.
Virtually impossible environments such as prison, you know.
Right. So you showed that you had the business acumen to set up those kind of networks. You were an influencer. You were a guy who could although you say you're not good at maths, if we started talking pounds, shillings and pence, your maths and half get good. Yeah. When we start talking about that, and you understood how to grow the business, so on and so forth, right? So our job was to stop your business, and frankly, you were very difficult in that way, because you were such a good businessman. And all you've done now, I like to think, is apply some of your business strategies that you had when you were running illegal enterprises into legal ones. Not only legal ones, Marvin, you're spreading into legal ones that help others prosper.
Yeah, it's helping everybody to grow it.
And how much are this pound, shilling and pence worth, really, compared to watching the face of a young person whose life you changed for the better?
Well, this is the thing.
Blows you away.
People say to me, I want to earn money, I want to earn money. I say, let's just focus on building something and achieving something. And then when they actually achieve something, like that feeling for me, for them to succeed in something, like makes, like I say to everyone I've helped so far, yeah, I don't want money from you. All I want you to do is give me a testimony.
Absolutely.
I mean, that testimony.
I think Steve Jobs, who was the founder of Apple, once said that doing something you love is the business you should be in, because by doing something you love, you do it well, and by doing it well, money becomes a byproduct.
Yeah, of your success.
So one of the richest men in the world, you know, that was his ethos.
But that's what I use now with all my youngsters. I say, listen, money's not important, but your successes and your achievements, and your achievements,
Absolutely.
what you achieve, the byproduct of that achievement is wealth, not just earning money. So when you just set a goal, well, I need 10 grand, then you go and get 10 grand, then you got 10 grand, then you got to spend 10 grand. So what's the point in getting 10 grand? Because you haven't achieved nothing, you've just got 10 grand. And then you got to start again. So on the out, it was criminal enterprises, criminal jobs, all sort of robberies, thieving, stealing, fraud, all the drugs, whatever you want to do, you do, right? But then once you've achieved that sum of money, it has to go. Then you got to start again. So that's the ripple effect of the merry-go-round. You know, you just never
And
end
definitely part of the joy of leading a non-criminal life, I think, and I dare say part of what you enjoy, isn't so much the achievement of money, it's the journey that you're having, the journey you're on, to be that guy who can change lives, to be that guy who's passionate about his daughter becoming an Olympian, and now being in a position where one day, instead of Marvin Herbert watching it on A-Wing at Swaleside on the twos, you'll be there.
Yeah.
And she could smile at her dad as she
Proud
crosses
of her dad,
that finishing line. And definitely proud of her dad. She clearly was when I met her. Very proud of you, and rightly so. You've been through the mill, let's be honest. You've been... you've been stabbed more times than a Tetley tea bag. Let's be...
And that's the thing, right? So, like Steve Jobs says, if you do something you love, then you're never working a day in your life. Right?
No.
You're never working a day in your life.
Absolutely.
And the irony of what I do now is I actually loved crime back in the day. Even when I was in prison, I loved being a criminal. Like, I loved getting one over you lot. Do you know what I'm saying? It was my aim and goal was to provide financial revenue stream for my family to live on the out, and I've done it by any means necessary within the prison system and out of prison. Right, so everything I discuss and talk about is to show the kids that the way forward isn't actually to commit crime, it's to actually find what it is they're good at, what it is they love doing, and develop a business around that, and that will bring them success once they achieve certain goals through the correct steps and procedures.
Absolutely, and the righteous path, for want of a better way of putting it, is uphill. It's rocky. You'll fall over. You'll graze your knees, and it's difficult. It is hard. It is difficult. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's so worthwhile.
Yeah,
so much more worthwhile.
Mate.
The journey's what's important here. You know, if you, what was it I said to you off camera was about, you know, that quick money. It's quick to come and it's quick to go.
Yeah. And it does come quick and it does go quick.
Yeah.
It goes even quicker when it comes quick.
And you know, and another thing I've said to a lot of young people as well. Yeah, I've got to protect my people on the street. And I'd say, what? The street? What, a pavement? A road? What are you talking about? These people that you're protecting, how many of them have visited you? Yeah. How many of them are looking after your family? Your real family? They don't care about you. And then you get a guy, I've got this one other young guy who said, yeah, brother, they paid me £300 a week to sit in this weed house, look after the house. £300 a week? What, and you'd stay there a week? Yeah, all week. I'd stay there all week. Right, so let's look at your hourly rate. You're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for £300 a week. You're on less than minimum wage.
Yeah.
Don't kid yourself that you're earning well. You're not. And getting those messages over sometimes really, they're difficult messages.
So we talked about the journey. So
yes,
I believe my journey was for me to become the man I am today, so I could make such an impact on so many young kids. So what I do say to people, and I've said it on numerous occasions, on numerous times, that I risk my liberty every single day of my life.
Yeah.
For a price I couldn't put my finger on. I was prepared to stab, shoot and kill and go to prison from one day to life. For what?
Yeah, for what?
For what? Do you understand? And this is what I'm getting to the next now. So that young kid there's earning 300 quid a week. You're earning 300 quid a week. Now, that 300 quid a week you're earning, you're going to be spending it. So if you've done that 300 quid a week for the rest of your life, for what?
Exactly.
For what?
What did he end up with at the end of it?
A prison sentence. That's why he's talking to you. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And that's the reality, right? So it's either prison, death, or suffering.
Yeah.
Because the people that suffer turn away from crime because they've had enough of the suffering and they can't have it no more. The people that go to prison never get out of prison because they've just got recommended sentences. Do you know what I mean? And the others end up dead. And we both know people that have been in prison that are dead now. We both know people that are in prison that are never getting out.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And
Yeah.
these are people that you've seen as young men coming from YOIs.
Oh, some of them are bright. Sometimes it breaks your heart when you see a guy come through the door 2 or 3 times, on that revolving door.
Yeah.
And the final sentence you're seeing him coming in on is a life. And it genuinely makes me bloody tearful, because you're just watching he's probably wasted somebody else's life.
Yeah.
And an entire set of family and friends. And he's done the same to himself. And generally speaking, these kids were good kids,
Yeah.
who could have had real opportunity. And I do feel for them. And I think sometimes the system is loaded against them in respect of, if you're released straight back into the same areas as Gang A,
Yeah.
coming away from that's so difficult. So I think sometimes we've got to look at that kind of whole rehabilitation thing and give people an honest chance.
Hence the reason why we started working together. Do you understand? Because it's about.
Well, we're both so passionate about it.
Yeah, and I know what would have helped me grow. Do you know what I mean? As a person, so having that insight from the product itself gives the establishment the ingredients to make a better cake, so to speak.
What would you say to the 18-year-old Marvin Herbert if he was sitting next to you right now? I'm just really interested.
What I would tell him is this, yeah? I'll tell him, look, I've been in this game 40 years, right? And I've been stabbed, I've been cut, I've been axed, I've been beaten, I've been abused, I've been traumatised, I've been to prison for most of my adult life. And I haven't got anything to prove for it. The only thing I can prove is that I was a bad guy. I had the arsehole of an elephant. Do you know what I'm saying? And I was game to do anything. And they're the only 3 things I can stand up and say. Now, I know people now that have hundreds of millions of pounds that have never had a fight, they've never been to prison, and they've never been hurt. What do you want for yourself? Do you want to follow my footsteps? Or do you want to follow someone else's footsteps?
And do you think sometimes it's the chasing of money, right? So rather than seeing, like for me, I talk, when I said about walking along the beach with Lucy, and the dog, it doesn't cost anything to do that. But I'm happy. For me, it's always about being happy. So money to me I'm not really, as long as I've got enough to pay my bills and I've got a roof over my head, I'm kind of out, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I've got a woman I love, I've got 2 boys I love, I've got a decent family around me, I've got a decent life, right? And I'm happy. Why on earth are we chasing all this money if it's not, surely we should be chasing happy. Do you know what I mean?
Because of the environments we come from, what I find is everybody's trying to be successful in that environment. So to be sort of successful, you need to have the watch, you need to have the jewellery, you need to have the car. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't even promote houses. Do you know what I mean? You got to have nice furniture, but 90% of the people that I grew up with all lived in council houses. Do you know what I mean? They never really paid much rent. Do you know what I'm saying? So everything was on the
Well,
scale.
this is all from charity shops.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is the egotistical aspect of a criminal really doesn't amount to nothing apart from having materialistic things and pretending to have a lot of money. Because I handled a lot of money, but I never made a lot of money, if that makes sense. Do you understand? So we had loads of money around all the time. But then the consequence of having loads of money around all the time was having loads of police, loads of problems, loads of headaches. So if I weren't fighting off rivals, if I weren't fighting off people that wanted to take my position, people who wanted to take my product, people who wanted to take my money, I'm fighting off the police, fighting off prison sentences. Do you know what I mean? So the lifestyle was just always sort of controlled with trauma, and then you're made to feel good when you have more money than most. So the aim and the goal was always to get more than everybody else.
Sorry, Marv, what was your daughter's name again?
Sloan.
Sloan.
Sloan, yeah. Sloane.
Now, I don't know if anybody was watching that, but all the time you talked about money, you didn't smile.
No.
Second you mentioned Sloan, you're happy.
Yeah.
That didn't cost you anything. Other than having your liberty.
She's my youngest, right? She's the youngest, right? She's young. So after Sloan, we got Marley, then we got Tegan, Kane and Dane. Now, every single one of my kids, yeah, are different in every aspect of their being. And they've all got different skills, right? But they're all in an environment now and a position in life where their skills are boding them well. And like my eldest son, he doesn't worry. He's just in the process of buying his first home. He's living in a really nice rented accommodation. He's got a girlfriend. I hope there's a possibility of kids in the near future because I want to be
granddad.
Oh, yeah.
Goodness.
Kane's into his electricity. He likes building things. He's going through a transitional stage of his life right now, trying to find himself 100. He goes from job to job and environment to environment, but he's not a bad kid. He's a good kid. He's not a violent kid. He's not a drug taker. He's not a junkie. Do you know what I'm saying? So he'll find himself sooner or later. Tegan's into, I think she's into recruitment at the moment. I think that's what she does at the moment. She just started a new job, and she may be going to China or she may be going to America. So she said a couple of days ago. So she's happy in herself. She's happy with who she's become. Marley wants to be a marine biologist or a vet, but she loves sort of like she's a captain. Well, I think she was the captain of her polo team. She loves what's that? The game where they play with it's like a net. Is it hurley?
Hurling.
Yeah. So she's in the hurley team and things like that. She's pretty active. She's consumed with the social media now. She's 14 years of age, so she's a typical teenager. Hates her dad at the moment, but that's just things we go through. And Sloane's the spit out of my mouth, but in a good sense.
Yeah,
you know, she's athletic. She's aggressive, but in a good way. Like, she's a very competitive sports person, so she's really good at sports. She's really competitive, and she's going to go far. So all my kids, when I actually think of all my kids, even though the relationship with my older kids, because I wasn't in their life as much as the younger kids, although my relationship isn't what I want, it's still a nice relationship. I don't worry about my kids going to prison. I don't worry about them getting hurt. I don't worry about them being junkies, being alcoholics. I don't worry about anything, because what their parents, more so their mothers, have instilled into them is not to become another version of me. You know, and then I've reinforced that when I've been around them, that you can't be me. This is no good. Don't think this is good. This ain't good. So they've all steered away from that. The two younger ones are totally different now, because they're privately educated and they've grown in a different environment totally. So when I look back from the man I was and the man I am, I'm 100% proud of the man I've become and the achievements that I'm heading towards now. You know, so what I'd like to reflect on is the man I used to be. Because I don't like saying what I used to be because it makes me sound egotistical. It makes me sound like I'm trying to blow smoke up my arse. So you met me when I was 25 years of age, and you knew me up until in the prison system till I was 35. So from your perspective, and this is just so the kids can understand or the people can understand that are watching, that the transition I've made wasn't easy, you know, it wasn't sort of enjoyable. I haven't always been wealthy, you know, but it's about them understanding that the man I was and the behaviour I displayed, which is what they all look to as respectful. They look for, we got to act like this, we got to be like that, we got to be like this. So from your perspective, would you like to explain what your opinions and the prison officers around us was of Marvin Herbert in prison, and at what positions and levels, like, it's just,
Well, from top
I don't know how you viewed me. All I know is what I got away with and what I've done within the prison system, you know.
Well, we knew you were, to coin the phrase, bang at it. We always did. But again, it was all about proving it. You were disrespectful. You were controlling. You were verbally and physically violent. No other way of putting it, Marv.
Yeah, no, be honest, man. Be honest. You can't look, Sean. You cannot offend me. Please believe me. You cannot offend me, because this isn't about me. This
The
isn't
Marvin
about me.
Herbert then was just a nasty human being who would use people, use those around him, see what you could grab from other people, what you could take, what you could have. Yeah, you were really not a good person.
Yeah, nasty.
I told you to lock up one time. I always remember it on the twos. And you stood there with a hot iron. And you'd have had no compulsion. If I hadn't have managed to de-escalate that situation, I know you'd have had no compulsion about putting that in my face.
Yeah.
I know what you would have done. Does that make me brave for going up there? No, because I was absolutely frightened. Of course I was. I'm human. And to be frightened isn't a bad thing. You know, keeps you wary, and keeps your reactional gaps and all the rest of it. But yeah, you were, and you loved to challenge any form of authority. Every wing you went on, you tried to own it.
Yeah.
Not in a good way. I don't mean that in a good way.
No.
You weren't helpful to anybody on that wing. Not even Shakesy, who you've referred to.
Yeah.
You'd have used Shakesy in a flash, if it had suited your need. You didn't care about anyone, Marvin, apart from you.
Yeah.
And maybe how you were gonna, as you say, earn money inside for your family. That's what you were.
Yeah. So from the
Sorry.
No, that's all right. No. So from the prisoners' officers' perspective, what kind of things did they think I was up to? What
Drugs,
levels?
definitely. You were into the drug trade in the prison. We know that for a fact. Extortion, so you would, you know, if somebody had something in their canteen you wanted, you'd take it. It was Marvin's, not theirs. You had no compulsion about taking from anyone. You liked it when you knew there were staff who were scared of you. You seemed to get a lot of joy out of that. And prisoners, to be fair, you didn't mind. You didn't really care about anybody. In that regard, that's what they thought. That's what we thought of you.
Yeah.
You would steal. You would, if somebody didn't pay on time. If a prisoner didn't pay on time, we know what you did, Marv. You know, they got hurt. They got badly hurt. Some of those people didn't have a pot to piss in. Sorry,
Yeah.
you know, and their family, some poor woman with 2 kids who, on the outside, who had fuck all, was having to, rather than feed the kids, having to send money in to pay her husband's debt off to Marvin Herbert. That's what you were.
Yeah. It's quite mad though, isn't it? When I look back and I remember what we used to do and how we used to behave, and we used to feel so empowered, you know, that we run the jail. Like it weren't a bit of the wing. It was like the whole jail, the drug infrastructure, everything that come in. Like it was beyond what I can talk about. And I talk about it because you know what it's giving you information now, because you're not a prison officer, and other prison officers now everything's changed now because they've got the X-ray machine. So back in the day, we used to get a lot of parcels brought in because I had a crooked solicitor. So our legal papers. So I used to get kilos of drugs and phones in the boxes. And what used to make me laugh, and I smile about it now, right, is I go on my legal visit, and then the solicitor would give the screws the legal paper boxes. Remember the boxes?
Yeah.
Right, so all the paperwork would be all the way down, and then at the bottom it'd be about this much, and it'd be all cut out, and then the parcels would be put in the paper, and then it'd be put another bit of paper on top glued. Do you know what I mean? And then why I'm smiling is because the officers used to give me the boxes, so I used to walk back off the visit and say, yeah, I've got some paperwork there, Gov, and they used to give me the boxes not knowing what was in the boxes. Do you know what I'm saying? And it was every which way I had to find to make money to provide for my family. And like you said, I didn't care about anybody unless I loved them. Like Shakesy, me and Shakesy was like him and her, like Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah, I think you were, but I think if it come down to it,
I don't
know, Marv.
No, see, there's people in my life, like even me and Shakesy now, but still, I was round his house the other day. Like, there's not many people that I sit in their house, or I sleep at their house, or they sleep at my house. Like, Shakesy's always been there. Do you know what I mean? From day dot. Like, there's what made everything sort of real to me was after I got shot. Right, and the people that come to see me now, Shakesy always come to Spain to see me. So there weren't many people from that old world that actually showed any love or respect and come to visit me. So at that stage, I never regretted treating everybody prior to that day the way I treated them, because, like you said, everybody was just a benefit. Because in the criminal world, what I like everybody to understand, and these are the youngsters, right? When you're at the top of the ladder, right, or your governors or your elders who are at the top of the ladder, they don't care about you. No. All they care about is that product and that money. And if you ain't got that money for that product, then you have a problem. Like, I've hurt my friends, so-called friends. I've hurt my associates. Some of my associates have been crippled and some of them are dead now, you know, and it's not because of anything less than that they failed to live up to the benefit. You understand? So if you're into a criminal sort of lifestyle now, just know that you are somebody else's benefit and they don't love you. And the minute you owe them money or the minute you mess up, then you're in trouble. And we pretended that everybody, we loved everybody. Yeah, come here, son. Yeah. Laughing and joking. But the minute something went wrong or something got lost or something wasn't paid for, like Sean just said, like, we ruined lives. Like, for what? For what? We ruined lives. So this is the message I'm putting out there. I'm not that same person, and I have a lot of regrets in my life, because the life that I led wasn't a very honest, well, it wasn't an honest life, it wasn't a considerate life, and it definitely wasn't harmonious. And there was only, I'd say, 2% of the people that I come into contact with that are classed as my friends. The rest of everybody else was a benefit. And it was a financial benefit, a materialistical benefit, or a violent benefit. And that is it. Me, I was always in control of my violence, as you know. Like, I didn't use anybody to commit any violence. If there was a bit of a problem,
no, you would be very, very quick to do it yourself.
I dished out my own violence because, like Sean mentioned earlier, I confronted everybody. There wasn't anybody that I come into contact with that I felt intimidated by, because I believed I was the baddest man in every environment I went in, and every wing I went in, and every jail. And people that know me know I'm not saying it to make myself look good or trying to make myself sort of trying to gratify my emotions or my ego, right? Because I knew I was always prepared to die. So if, for argument's sake, you're going down that road and you're not prepared to die, then get out of it. Because even though I was prepared to die, I still asked the question, for what was I prepared to die for? For what was I prepared to sit in prison for? For what was my family supposed to be suffering for? For what? For what? So these scenarios that we go through in life, to be the man, to earn the money, to get the product, to get the readies, to get the watches, to get the cars, you got to ask yourself, for what? For what? Steve Jobs said, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And through achievement, you become wealthy. So everybody out there has something inside of them that they're good at. So the reason we're having this podcast today is to show you, to show you and make you understand and hear from a prison officer's perspective. Now, would you say I run the jail?
Did you run the jail? What, in terms of the drugs coming in? Probably, yeah.
Right, so on a drug aspect of prison, there wasn't a prison that I went in where I wasn't in some form of control of the drug culture. Because at the level that we got to, I was always the guy that could supply the in or the product. And once you supply the in or the product, then you're that guy. And you're controlling because you say what goes where and who has what. So that transferable skill that I had through networking, controlling and manipulating, I use that now in a positive way in business. Okay, so I get into business and I do things the same way. So I'll find people for the right jobs, for the right opportunities, for the right placements, for them to prosper. That's what I do now. And prior to this, it was always finding the right person to feed my benefit. Do you understand? So now the benefit isn't for me, because my benefit now is their achievement. And that's what I buzz off. The fact that people, I've got people, they're not going to prison no more. I've got like maybe 5, 10, 15 people that are not going to prison no more. Right? They're never going back to prison. And I can say never because the money they're making now and the way they're living now, they're never going to ever risk that to commit a crime where they might nick a couple of £100 or a couple of £1,000 or even tens of thousands of pounds. Because working legit, right, example, I've been on social media for less than a whole year, right? And you can see the analytic reports. Someone's posted it the other day. Now I'm estimated to make like 55, 60,000 pounds this year, like just for doing social media. Do you know what I mean? And that's just communicating. That's just sending a positive message. Do you understand that? I'm not doing anything different to what I've always done. I've sat down and I've spoke to people and I've manipulated their mindsets to achieve a goal. And I'm getting paid for that now. And then on top of that, yeah, Serco, one of the biggest prison organisations, among other things, yeah, have got me on side because of that mindset. And I do not doubt for 1 minute that moving forward over the next 10 years, I'll be placed in a prison with a position of authority. Do you understand?
Well, you probably would have been, within the resettlement management, wouldn't you, of the jail we've been on, we didn't quite get.
Let me just hold you there. So what Sean's talking about is this. Well, I got involved with Sean a couple of years ago with Serco, and basically I was going in to work in a new prison that's opened this year, right, in Wellingborough. Now, I was going to be a management level team player of resettlement in the prison with my own keys, right, and with my own group of people working under me in a prison. Like Marvin Herbert. Whoever thought I'd get to Downing Street? Would you ever thought of me going Downing Street back in the day? If someone had said to you,
maybe through the back window.
If someone had said to you, I'll tell you what, I'll leave him alone, he's going to be in Downing Street in a few years, what would you have said to them?
Back in the day then, never.
Never in a million years. Never. I never believed it, right? But the transferable skills I have as a human being, right? Becoming harmonious with those around me, becoming harmonious with the people that I'm introduced to, and creating avenues to achievement, not creating avenues to money. I'm just thinking, how can we get this program working? How can we get loads of people on this program? Because on the programs that we develop, we don't get paid until we create the outcome. So until we get successes in individuals, we don't get nothing. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying we don't get nothing, but we don't get what we want in life. But once all these people, like I was saying, if I have 10 years, right, with 100% record, right, of resettlement, yeah, I'll be a billionaire. I believe that.
Probably, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Right, so if I was saying,
the cost of reoffending when I was still in the prison service, if you looked at the reoffending rates and you looked at the cost of reoffending and took into account robberies, the cost of police, prison officers, ambulances, healthcare, insurances, security, etc., it worked out to something like 333 billion a year.
That's what I'm saying, sir. Now, if I had a success rate that prevented that from happening, it's all over. So we're on the very first step of that journey, okay? And I've been invited to Downing Street. I've been invited to work in prisons, and we come second, was it?
Second on the bid, yeah.
Second out of the whole nation, right? Second to run a super prison, right? And that was our first ever
attempt,
yeah. Our first attempt. So where do you think we're going to be in 5-10 years' time? So by the time I'm 55, 60, yeah, this is going to be a reality, because it's not the money that I'm looking for. It's actually getting in that position of being a governor, a manager, or someone of a higher level standard within a prison for resettlement, and creating people that do not come back to prison. Now, I do believe, yeah, that if I could make any kid out there right now, yeah, £1,500 to £2,000 a month, how many do you think you're going to come and work for me? Simple. And bear in mind, you're going to have your house, you're going to have a vehicle, and you're going to earn £2,000 a month. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. And the fact that you're going to have your own car, you're going to have your own home, and you're going to have £2,000-3,000 a month, yeah, you don't have to go to prison. No one's going to be looking to hurt you. No one's going to be looking to shoot you. And all you've got to do is go to work every day. Do you understand? You said something earlier about a young kid working in a weed house, buzzing that he was getting £300 a week, right? So this young kid, right, he was gloating to Sean that his life's cool, man. He gets £300 a week sitting in a house doing nothing, right? So if you work out the statistics of that, right, £300 a week to sit in a house for 18 to 24 hours a day, because he goes home, has a bath, a change, and comes back, right? So 18 to 24 hours a day, every day for a week. That's less than minimum wage. And all he's getting is £300 a week. But on top of that, yeah, he's risking going to prison, someone booting the door off to rob him and hurt him, or someone booting off the door to nick him and put him in prison for £300 a week. How sensible is that? So I ask a question. For what? For what are you sitting in these trap houses for? For what are you holding these products for? How? Just work it out. If you're looking after someone's drugs, right, and you've got them drugs in your house, you've got to look after them drugs for 24 hours a day, every day of the week. How much are you getting? You might think £1,000 a week, £500 a week is a lot of money. But imagine how much you're going to lose going to prison. What are you going to lose if someone boots the door off and wants to nick that product or that money? Like, so you think you're earning money, but what are you risking?
Well, it's like the loyalty thing around it as well. It's hilarious. You know, you get these kids who do this, and they come and, you know, they could be doing 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? And you say to them, who are you holding it for? I can never tell you that. And I always think to myself, all right, you know, I get you don't want to grass. Fine, get that. Have you ever considered that the people you're holding it for are asking you to hold it because they don't bloody want to go to prison, they don't want to take any risks, and if they can find what is essentially a sucker to hold it for £300,
why not?
Why not?
So look at that. So that's why I say
Don't
beware of the groomers, right? Because all them older lot, I was one. I was a groomer. I'm not going to be embarrassed to say that. But if you're giving someone a product that can put them in prison or get them shot or get them hurt or get them disabled, yeah, so you can benefit financially, I'm grooming him to do that. Why? Because I don't want to get shot, I don't want to get stabbed, and I don't want to go to prison. So what do? I find myself a sucker, yeah, to take all the risks for me. For what? For what? £300 a week, £500 a week. But I'll tell you what, if you take Class A, you might get £1,000 a week because you're a bad man. Yeah, £1,000 a week, and the consequences to all of that is effed beyond belief, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty fortunate because I do believe that I was put on this planet to achieve greatness, and I believe the greatness I'm led to achieve, I've had to go through everything I've gone through, right? So, like I've said on numerous occasions, I've been stabbed in every limb of my body. I've been stabbed in my heart, I've been stabbed in my brain. Fortunately enough, I'm not dead, right? I've been chopped in my head with axes. I've been stabbed, I've been cut, I've been shot 5 times. I've got one eye, do you understand? I've got shot point blank range in my face, right? So, it's not if but or maybe, it's a matter of when or what level you're at. So I got shot in the forehead there, and I got shot right in the eye. For what? For what? I'll tell you for what. A £3,000 watch. £3,000 watch. I got shot 5 times and nearly died. Again, taken away from my kids, taken away from my future, taken away from my life and my family. For what? For what? A £3 watch. So what is it you're throwing yourself in front of the fire for? Or in front of the bus? Or what are you jumping into the frying pan for? You got to ask yourself these questions, because Sean met me when I was one of the most violent people I could ever become, okay? Now, other villains might say they wasn't scared of me, but they was. They was. Screws might say they weren't scared of me, but they was. Why? Because I was prepared to die. And they knew when they come to me, they knew that, right? For what? For what? I'm prepared to die every day of my life. For what? I'm prepared to go to prison forever, every day of my life. For what? Right? To sit here 30 years later, working out bids and working out business with an ex-prison officer that works for the prison system. Wow. Imagine that. I got to Downing Street. I'm on course for Buckingham Palace. So watch this space, right? Use your transferable skills. Don't waste 40 years of your life before the penny drops for you. Because when the penny dropped for me, I'm lying in a hospital bed. I can't move. I'm in pain. Morphine. 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 Right, so one day I've said to the nurse, "Nurse, can I have a word a minute?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "How long have I got to take this morphine for?" 2-3 years. I was like, "What? 2-3 years I've got to take morphine? Right? I'm going to be a junkie. I'm going to be a heroin addict. 2-3 years." So ask myself, if you ask my question then, for what? I was in that position. For what? To take heroin for the rest of my life, right? In morphine form, right? I was never going to walk again, they said. Now, because I got out of my bed and I've done what I needed to do so I could walk again, I'm here today. Now, it wasn't an easy journey. Yeah, it wasn't an enjoyable journey. There wasn't any fun in it. I was in excruciating pain for years, okay, to get myself back to a position so I could provide a future and a living for my kids, right? So when I ask the question now, for what? What do I do what I'm doing now? For what? Yeah, so I can have this smile on my face, so I can rest in my bed, so I can drive my car, so I can go on holiday, so I can provide for my family without getting stabbed, shot, killed, going to prison. So when you ask me for what, I'm going to work, bruv. Yeah, every day, right? And I'm not, this isn't work for me, right? But this platform I'm on right now, and look it up on YouTube, you'll see it. You'll see it. It says what I'm estimated to be earning in the next 2-3 years. It estimates what I'm going to be building within the next 2-3 years. And it's not hard work. It's simple. And I love talking to people. I love communicating. I love being emotional, right? This is what I love. I love interacting with things. I love doing. I like building, right? The only difference right now is everything I'm doing is legitimate product. Legitimate, legal products. Nothing crooked, okay? And we're growing. And we're growing at an exponential rate and an exponential way. And when we get where we're supposed to be getting, I'll be looking back thinking, wow, that was amazing. But what I want to give you guys the message for, yeah, is if you're caught up and you're wrapped up and you're making bad choices with your life, you got to ask yourself, for what, bruv? For what, sis? Do you understand? Because don't think that I haven't been accustomed to the female aspect of criminality, because my sister and my mum were criminals, okay? Everybody's been at it in my family. So I've been sort of accustomed to the female deprivation, the female trauma, watching my sisters. Do you understand? My sister ended up with cancer. That's what turned her life around. Do you know what I mean? She got cancer and thought, fuck this. She got to a point in her life where she was going to die. And then thought, I'm not doing this no more. So now she's on a transitional journey right now, which is there to help people. She's like a nurse now. Do you know what I mean? She does things in a way which helps people benefit, helps people grow and help people heal. Okay, my other sister, she does everything for her family and her kids. Do you understand? My mum is a Buddhist. Do you understand? Like every single one of my family members have turned out into be the opposite of what they were. My brother Earl, yeah, he's been a worker all his life. He's just worked. He engaged a little bit with me when we were kids, but he's worked. He's happily married with his missus. He's got his 2 kids living in Kent. Like, we don't have a very strong bond because of the choices I made in life. But he's still my brother and I still love him and I respect him more than every villain that I've come across in my whole entire life. Why? Because he was man enough to get up every day and go to work. He was man enough to get the headache off his missus. He was man enough to be there for his children every single day. Yeah, every day of his life he's been there for his kids. Unlike myself, I've been in and out of my kids' life for years. Even my 2 youngest daughters, yeah? 2 years out of their life, I've been in prison. Do you know what I mean? And that was when they were young kids. Do you know what I mean? When they first come back from Spain, they was only 5 and 6. And they never had their dad in their life for a year. And I vowed then that would never happen again. And then from that transition of seeing, what done it was I'm walking along the landing, Sean, right? And I'm thinking, wow, I used to look at the 40-year-old men when I was a kid thinking I'm never going to end up like that. And fucking look at this, now I'm one of them. Now I'm one of them. What am I going to do? Well, how am I going to end up? And then all of a sudden, one of the old boys dies on the wing. And I thought, wow, do you know what? That's going to be me. That can't happen. That can't happen. Do you know what I mean? So what do they call it? The epiphany I had when I was in the hospital bed about the criminals and the love and the respect. And then the reality of realisation that I'm going to end up dead in a prison cell. Now, I know people, I don't need to name them. I know people that are going to die in prison because they're never coming home. They've got 2, 3 life sentences. Some of them have got 34, 40 years, 50 years recs. Do you understand? Like, come on, man. Some people on IPPs. I know people that have been on an IPP. They got a 2-year IPP and have been in jail for 17 years. What chance have they got of coming home? I don't know. But what I do know is this. If they do not display through their personality, character and behaviour a dramatic change, they're never coming out. So if you're a bad man in jail and you're watching this and you're acting bad still, just know you're not coming home. You're not coming home. And I'm going to refer back to Mickey Cunningham's statement to me when I was 20 odd years of age. Right? I said to him one day, why the fuck do you talk to these people, Mick? Like, why'd you do this? And he said, are you mad? He said, I want to go home, mate. He said, Marv, listen to me, son. Yeah? He said, you know what, you're on the street, you get nicked, you be good, you get out. You get out. He said, if you be bad, you're not getting out. Right? And you're not. Right? I got a 5-year sentence and done 4 years, 9 months out of it. I got a 5.5-year sentence and done 4 years, 2 months out of it. I should have been out after 30 months on both of my sentences. I should have been out after 30 months on both of my sentences. And what I've proved to myself now is that I had the skills to play the game, to achieve the goals and get out. So don't be a bad man. For what are you being a bad man for? So you can make your peers proud of you. So you can make people scared of you. Because the end result, yeah, is deprivation, prison or death.
Let's be honest as well, Mark. A lot of young kids coming into jail now, gang-related crime, stabbing people. They're doing really long recs, some of these kids. Really young people.
For what?
For nothing. What? For absolutely nothing.
Crazy.
And why are they being bad men when they get there? Because they're scared.
90% of them.
90% of them are sitting in that cell. They're either crying, or they're scared, or they're this, or they're that. And they've got they're 20 years old and they've got a 25-year rec. Wow.
Crazy.
Don't do it in the first place. That's my... Seriously, Marvin's right. You're talented. You really are talented. Find what it is you love. Because it's so worth it.
How many times have you looked at inmates and said, if he got into this and that, he'd be a multi-millionaire?
Oh, loads and loads and loads of times. I can't even tell you how many times. I mean, I've been very lucky too to be involved in changing a few lives.
Joe Morris was another one, rest his soul. Huh? Because it was his boxing event.
He was a beautiful kid.
But that was his boxing event, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and he passed away sadly a few years ago now. But he was a guy from Tottenham that was on the wrong road from an early young age, right? Now his family are beautiful. They're all Christians, really God-fearing people. And I didn't even know who his family was until I started engaging with him at the events. And I met his dad, Philip, I met his mum, I met his sisters, and I was like, wow, what the fuck have you been a criminal for? And he was like, Marv, do you know what, mate? I just wanted to help people. And at the stage of his life, where he was actually able to help people, he died. He just dropped down. Well, he went to the hospital with a pain in his arm, yeah? And then he just never recovered. They put him into a coma and he's dead. Do you understand? But the legacy that man has left behind.
Joe Morris he's got a great legacy.
No, and it's growing. It's massive. The legacy gala.
Really does.
Yeah, his brother Milo is in control of that, and Philip, his dad, yeah, and the sisters, Lisa, I can't remember the other one's name. It's just gone my short-term memory, so forgive me for forgetting your name. But it's the family are beautiful people, right? And they're doing the righteous thing. They've done the righteous thing forever. It's just a shame that Joe died at the tragic age that he did. Okay, and he's left his young son Josie and his young little sister. Like, and it's sad to believe, yeah, that we applied ourselves to something so negative, so passionately, and so sort of loyally bound. For what? You know, and I look around me now as a 50-year-old man, and I see the sons, the daughters of some of my fallen comrades and some of my fallen associates. And I just think, for what? Like, I've been fortunate enough to be blessed with the opportunities to grow and develop and change. So this is what people need to focus on, right? Growing, developing and changing. You can't continue on this madness. It's crazy. Do you understand? Like, just an example, what just popped into my head then. How many artists have you ever seen in prison?
Brilliant artists.
Unbelievable artists. Like, it is sick, the amount of talent. I'll tell you what, I remember a geezer. Remember the geezer used to make all the sculptures out of bread? Valentine's, anything you wanted, this guy used to make it out of bread.
Do you remember he used to make roses?
Yeah. This geezer used to make a living out of making roses out of bread for people, right? But he could make anything perfect out of bread, right? That's a skill. Like, if you're good at something, you're sitting in your cell and you're doing, like, people with matches, fucking matches, right? Well, you strike matches, right? Some of the things you've seen it. I know you've seen a lot more than me, right? Because I was ignorant to all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And silly things. I remember one guy, I can't remember his name. This isn't back in the day when they had all the old phone cards.
Yeah.
And he asked if he could take the old phone cards with him when he got out. He had 2, like, bin liners full of these spent things. Do you know what he did? I'll tell you what he did. He got one of those little paper things that make a hole punch. Put a key ring in it, right? Sold them on the markets. Wow. £2. Prison phone card.
And there's a stage where people used to...
But what a brilliant salesman. Now, he didn't have to come to prison to make money, really, did he?
No, just come up with ideas. And this is the thing, yeah? Just think about what you can do. Just think like these things that you think like anything like architects, sculptures, artists, like the sickest artists are in print. Like I've seen some pictures that actually look alive. You think, is that a painting? Wow, that's sick. And the things they make out of matches, they can make absolutely anything out of matches, like matchsticks. And they make the maddest sculptures, the maddest portrait. Like what are they called when you make like a head of someone? Is the sculpture, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a sculpture.
Yeah, they make like what a sculpture like
out of papier mache and all sorts.
Everything.
Oh,
like, the artists you've got in prison.
I'll tell you that I had this one lad when I was doing the qualities in the prison, and I had this. So I wanted to get some peer mentors. Anyway, I had this one lad. I'm not going to mention his name, but if he does listen to this, he'll know who he is. Quite a young man, been involved with the drugs game, didn't really know anything else. I think we talked about like his 10th birthday present from his mum was a bag. So he could shoot up himself. Things like that.
Shut up.
No, I'm serious, right? That was the life he'd had.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got him using silly things like Thameside and Thameside are brilliant because they had you could do computer courses in your cell. So he learned PowerPoint, Excel, Word, all these things. He's dyslexic as well. Anyway, and he used to sell drugs and all the rest of it. And we talked a lot about his transferable skills.
Right.
He now works for a very large construction company as a project manager, earning at least 3 times what I earn.
See? And that's just, he's good at something. Find out what it is you're good at. And you will never work a day in your life, whether it's athletes. And basically, we got football, boxing, and music. That's what I specialise in. Now we're moving into scaffolding, roofing, and household maintenance, sort of like just carpentry, plastering, plasterboard. So once this COVID stops, I'm going to be able to employ anybody with training and then employment. That is what I have, me personally. And then with the organisations that Sean's connected to, we've got Mehmet as well. He's another guy that's just phenomenal.
Well, Inspiring Families, which is the programme I work on, can help ex-offenders, particularly in East and North London, find what it is they want to be.
Yeah. And don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed about what you want to be. Do not be embarrassed about what you want to be, because whatever it is you want to be, when you become the best at that, all the people on the road will want to follow in your footsteps. Now, there's a young man on the road that come to me one day, young G-man. He said to me, what am I going to do? And he said, people will take the piss. I said, don't worry about that, G. Don't worry about that. Just stay focused. He didn't know what he went into a bit of, it was marketing, advertising, telesales, and he just didn't know what he wanted to do. And then he found music. Not music, but management, right? Management. Now, all of a sudden, he runs Buzzworld. Do you understand? He runs Buzzworld. He's got about 8 or 10 people under him that are growing at a phenomenal rate. Young Ambush, the artist, sick from the plot, my son's friend. I'm proud to call him a friend now. Do you understand? They don't break the law. They don't need to break the law. They're doing things correct. And in 5 years' time, they're going to be so insurmountable, it's unreal. They'll be untouchable by the law unless they break the law, but they'll be untouchable by the law because of the success that they made for themselves. Yeah, the success. So the organisation, the Marvin Herbert, is here to help everybody that needs to change. So contact us on our social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Email us on themarvinherbert.com. And right now it's traumatic for everybody. So just focus. Once this COVID comes out, yeah, and ends, then we've got opportunities for everybody. So whatever it is you're good at now, start focusing now on preparing the infrastructure to come and see us. And we will help you. We'll help you grow, we'll help you develop, and we'll help you become, okay? So another episode from the Marvin Herbert's Nothing But the Truth is just showing you have transferable skills. Don't risk your liberty for a price you can't put your finger on. Don't risk your liberty and go to prison forever. Don't risk your liberty to stab, shoot and kill. Because the question is, for what? For what? To end up in prison, to end up dead, or end up destitute or disabled? Come on, man. Come on. Come on. it's not about the life of old Marv. Do you know what I mean? It's about the life of Marv now. Yeah? So Sean, it was an absolute pleasure having you on.
Marv, thank you so much.
And we'll be back on, because when I achieve something with Sean, we're coming back on to say, right, you had a podcast with us a year ago, right? This is where we're at right now, right? And I can guarantee you, yeah, you're going to be happy. Yeah, I'm going to be happy, but more importantly, Sean's going to be happy. And you know what it is?
More importantly, my wife's going to be happy.
And you know what? Next time, whenever you see me now, you don't have to say, fuck, there's Marvin Herbert. Fuck. Do you understand? It's like, he invited me to the headquarters of Serco to sit down on a board meeting. And we sat down on a board meeting with the heads of Serco to develop and create and build. And now we're doing it. So you can do the same thing. Do you understand? In whatever field it is you're destined to become. So nothing but the truth. Marvin Herbert has got you, as long as if you have got the confidence, the ability, and the strength to want to change. Okay? Stay safe, stay focused, stay positive. Yeah? For what?